There we go.
Shall we start now?
Yeah.
So, what is your impression about this country?
We don't do impressions.
Well, I'll start it off and say that this is my third visit to Japan, and I absolutely love the place.
Last night was one of the best concerts I've ever played. Really, it wasn't just the way we played pretty good, but the audience reaction to what we were doing. Every time we were maybe looking for a bit of help, the audience was there.
Yeah.
And we stepped it up a little bit, and then the audience came with us, and it was just right to the end. You know, there weren't thousands of people, and it was just so incredible.
I would rather have an audience like we had last night.
Every time.
A small audience
Every
like
time.
that, rather than have 10,000 people who stand and look at you. They were amazing. They really
absolutely incredible.
But I think everything about Japan, you know, I think it's like when we flew into Osaka, the typhoon was there. No planes were coming in, but we came from Taipei, so we flew in. But coming into the airport it felt like coming home. You know, it feels so warm here and comfortable. It feels familiar but unfamiliar. It's an incredible country, you know, incredible food with incredible people and culture, and it wraps itself around you, you know, and you spend, it's like walking through a Disneyland, you're just staring at everything.
It doesn't matter where you go, everybody wants to help you. Everybody wants to be considerate, like, apart from him!
Okay, so what bands influenced you when you started up VENOM at first?
Very much different bands between the three of us.
The thing that changed my life completely was May 28th, 1979. It was Judas Priest. And as soon as I seen that band, that was it. I knew. I mean, I had plans that I wanted a band before that, and I was jamming with a couple of people. But seeing Judas Priest that night, in particular KK Downing was my huge role model in the beginning, and they influenced me a hell of a lot, as did Kiss and Motorhead, and Black Sabbath to a lesser extent, musically. Image-wise, yes, but it was, for me, definitely Judas Priest, easily.
For me, it was Deep Purple, the old band, Deep Purple, Free, Bad Company, these kind of bands, which have no bearing on the sound or the attitude of VENOM. And I think that's important. The bands that influenced us, we maybe took something from them up here, but we don't sound anything like Deep Purple or Kiss or Judas Priest, not really. I think we were inspired to be in a band by these bands.
I think music is very much of the soul. You know, I think there's lots of very great technical musicians, there's lots of great producers and technical equipment available to mix and master music. But there's a difference between, you know, even with musicians, there's a guy who's in a band, and then there's a musician. And I think the bands, like for me it was Motorhead, you know, but when I started to go down into punk and all of that, and you know, I was quite eclectic in my music taste, but when I heard Motorhead for the first time live, it was like, fuck, you know, it was just so overwhelming that I thought, wow, it did something inside. And I think, you know, when he mentions Judas Priest, the feeling that he had, the emotion, I mean, it's just totally repellable. If it came on now, any one of those tracks from any of those bands, each one of us would have a palpitation in the heart.
I think if anybody went to any metal gig though, any band, they would be moved by it. So it's the type of music as much as the particular bands. It's just this form of music.
I think there's an honesty to it. You know, with pop music and stuff, popular music, you know, it's all great, and you know, and people sing along and they enjoy it for a lesser reason. I think this type of thing, it hits your soul, you know. I mean, last night we did, you know, a track about a serial killer, you know, not particularly gentle lyrics and stuff like that. When we came to the middle section about the killer coming up to chop your head off, or it was just a row of smiling faces. You know, so the music is reaching
everybody's in this together.
Yeah,
it's a family. It's togetherness.
It's more of a lifestyle than anything else.
Yeah.
And what was the trigger to play faster and faster?
I think In the beginning, in the very, very early days of Venom, there was always this thought of being the loudest, the heaviest, the fastest, the most brutal, the most over-the-top band. It was sort of, we wanted to be the band that we wanted to see on stage. But it was never a contrived or a conscious effort. We just did what came naturally. Now, I've been asked this question about the actual songs. I mean, I'll state here and now that 80–90% of Welcome to Hell and Black Metal I wrote. A lot of it was written before Kronos joined the band. But I wrote those songs, and my musical toolbox, if you like, was a power chord and a pentatonic scale. And I just did the absolute best that I could with those two tools. And for me, the guitar has always been about songs. It's writing songs. A guitar solo, yeah, there's some great guitar solos out there, but you know, it's the song that connects with the fans, with the people. You know, like when we play Countdown Factory, everybody sings the chorus. So we just, like I say, we did what came naturally to us, and a lot of that was down to ignorance as well. You know, we weren't technically, you know, of the likes of Malmsteen and Vine or all these people, but we had something, and we just didn't know what it was, and then all of a sudden the whole world got it. You know, and I mean the first song I ever wrote, was Red Light Fever. And I mean, even songs like Buried Libraries of the Dead, they were written before Welcome to Hell.
Yeah, the demo version is on the
CD. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff written, you know, way before it was recorded. But like I say, we just went into the studio. We had no clue. If anybody says, yes, we knew what we were doing when, you know, we had no clue. Compressions, EQs, all this kind of stuff, mixing, mastering, didn't know what the hell all that meant. We went in, I had a Marshall JCM 800, a Marshall cab, and another cab, which I can't even remember the name, which I bought second hand. I had a Flying V, and I had a fuzz pedal, and that was it. Plug it in, turn everything up as loud as it would go, and just go for it. So what you have on those two albums, I think, is a moment captured in time. I think it's honesty, and it's a young band doing the absolute best that they could, and people dig it. And that was more qualification for me than anybody coming up and saying, "Oh my God, you're a great guitarist." I've always said, if I was given the choice of being the greatest guitarist in the world or the greatest songwriter in the world, I'll be the songwriter. All the time, because songs come from the heart. Yeah.
I think that's indicative of Welcome to Hell. If you listen to Welcome to Hell, there's an ambience that's almost chaos verging on disruption within the whole thing. And that moment just spoke to so many people. You know, it was emanating from them, and everybody related to it, much like the punk thing. You know, when kids would then go, you know, they'd look at those great guitarists or great bands and go, you know, I want to be able to do that, buy a guitar, and try and maybe fail at some point. But what punk did was it opened the door to people to go, wow, I can just get up on stage and speak. You know, and if it's great, it doesn't matter as long as you're doing it. And I think that's what they did, you know. They showed people it was possible to just go and just do it. Just do it. It's good.
What is great about Venom is that the concept, the image, were already completed even at the first stage, like your stage name or the lyrics and photo sessions, everything. Where did you get the inspiration from? You know, the evil, satanic image?
Pretty much everything came together at the same time. The sounds, the imagery, what we wanted to do on stage, how we wanted to dress, what we wanted to be called. It just kind of rolled very, very quickly. It was obvious that the way we wanted to look, we couldn't be called Jeff and Tony, so we had to have something. So already that's a ball that's rolling. And if we're going to be called this great demonic name, then we can't be dressed not in a heavy metal fashion. So all these, lots of other bands were doing it, but we just took, I mean, the name Abaddon comes from the Bible, it's written in the Bible, it's Hebrew. but the whole imagery, whether we were going to use, there was no question that we would be using pyrotechnics. It didn't matter if we needed licenses, it didn't matter if we could afford them, it didn't matter where we were going to find these mystical things or where we were going to take them to let people see them. We were going to get them and people were going to stand there and we were going to set them off. It's just, it was going to happen. It didn't matter if it was going to be a neighbour, which it often was. That whole period of the band, everything moved very quickly.
Any particular bands or movies or anything inspired?
I don't think so.
I mean, it was, for me, it was definitely, I keep going back to Judas Priest, and I've got to, because, you know, it was the look that they had, you know, so it was like, I suppose, yeah, subconsciously it was taking everything a stage further.
I think the bondage thing came in a little bit, but then people like Anvil and they started doing this much more, and it wasn't something that we took that far. The original singer used to wear manacles, rusty manacles on his arms, and his arms were manacled together, like he was trying to fight to get away while he was singing.
The other thing the singer used to wear was actually what you know now as corpse paint.
He was one of the first people.
Yeah, we painted his face white, and I mean it wasn't theatrical
nice
makeup either. It was paint, you know. And then
when it cracked, it was get blood that run down the holes, down the gaps. So, and it was very organic. Every time it looked different. It wasn't like an Alice Cooper thing or a Gene Simmons thing, which was, you know, a perfect scripted thing. It was just a mess. And it was all about kind of bondage and that. But the band, you couldn't say we were a band that were influenced by anything bondage-wise. But that kind of look, you know, with studs and chains and knives and the samurai swords, all this kind of thing. That all followed.
I think that was the key. I think it was, you know, he loves horror movies.
Yeah. And
he's really sick, and you know, really, he's quiet, but he's a bit sick. So, but all of that was like an outlet, you know, was an outlet to go. You know, Tony's a very affable guy, but well read, and he's always looking for new information and reading stuff, and he's always looking for ideas. And you know, I think each one of them was drawing from all those aspects. You know, you could see where the music influence was coming from. But all those things were just piling themselves up. You know, there's like you know, with 10 minutes into any meeting, if we had never been chatting for a while. Someone goes, you know what I was thinking? Bang, that's it. There's
ideas.
Ideas just
don't forget that we were coming out at the end of a very, very rich era, which was the 1970s. Some of the best horror movies, some of the best bands, some of the best big gigs were starting to happen.
Huge arena shows.
So you had to have more stage show to fill it. So we had this. We were on. There was a huge explosion coming out in 1977, 78, and we were right there and just swept by it. You know, Kubrick and all these people were just putting out ridiculous stuff, and we were just right. We were just aching to suck it up.
And I suppose as well, the intention was there. If there was an intention, the intention was there to shock people.
Yes,
well.
Yeah, of course.
And because the shock value is great. I mean, you know, to this day, there hasn't been a movie which has surpassed The Exorcist. You know, there's a million horror movies being made, but nothing has surpassed that movie.
And you have to remember that we were like 17 when I was 17 when the movie came out. So it's such an influence on you as a 17-year-old guy.
And even
in the movies,
Rollerball, Death Race 2000, which they were like brutal.
Yes.
And Jaws, The Exorcist was like, holy shit, gigantic sharks.
And for the time, you know, Exorcist 1973.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
That's
come on.